Elmo, it's no secret why you're here, okay? Last night on X, you went on a rant targeting Jews, President Trump, and Jeffrey Epstein.
Elmo was hacked.
So you say so, okay? But Cookie Monster was in here earlier, and he said he was with you when you were posting that stuff on X. Oh, and by the way, the IP address, it's yours.
That means nothing. You can't trust that junkie.
Listen, but I have to ask, and with all due respect, look at me. Were you drinking last night?
Elmo had a glass of Chardonnay.
A glass?
Okay, fine. It was a bottle. But that's a normal Sunday night for Elmo.
And let me guess, you were watching Nick Fuentes and Dan Bilzerian content, right?
Yeah,
But nothing, all right? You tweeted, Donald Trump is Netanyahu's puppet because he's in the Epstein files and Jews control the world.
Look, Elmo knows puppets. And Bibi has his hand so far up Trump's ass
Whoa, Elmo!
No, you're singling Elmo out. Snuffleupagus has been doing cocaine for 20 years. And Big Bird says the N-word on a consistent basis, and you do nothing!
Calm down,
No.
Elmo. All right, stop.
Look, if noticing patterns and connecting the dots makes me anti-Semitic, then ooh-wee, guilty as charged.
Elmo, stop. All right, enough already. And I hate that I have to do this, but this morning, I got a package, okay? And in the package was a video with a note attached. And the video is of someone that looks exactly like you messing around with some underage puppets. Oh, and guess what? The note said, tell Elmo to back off immediately. We also want him to go on an apology tour in Jerusalem, maybe even kiss the wall.
I'll be damned to hell if I'm going to Jerusalem.
All right, look at that. Look at that. Who's that?
Elmo's 3.5.
Who's that?
That's not me.
Elmo.
That could be anybody.
Elmo.
That could be anyone.
Elmo.
Not coming from
That's you.
Oy vey.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you'll be seeing Elmo when he gets back from Jerusalem. Mazel tov. I love Jews. Jews love me. Please don't leak that vid of me.
I think that's Patrick Bet David's group who made that. Congratulations to you guys. Good morning, pineapples. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. What a way to start the show today. So Donald Trump made it official in his latest rescissions package. He's cutting federal funding for PBS and NPR. Oh, thank God. We needed the wins. We needed the dub. These are two networks who have been guzzling your tax dollars like Hunter Biden in a Burisma boardroom. Y2 Joe says Dave Portnoy paid for his flight. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have a good show today. Happy merchant, rub your hands. Good morning, John Rail. Hi, Nelson65. Dad bod baboon. I give it a shits. I give it a shits for you. Drew Van Runkle, Thormock, Floby Tenderson, L Dubs, Kermode Bear, T-Mail 22. All of our friends are here. You guys ready to get the show on the road? Ready to rock and roll? Give myself a little double espresso coffee today. Dash of vanilla, a little chocolate sauce, a couple things of peanut butter. Baby, you got yourself a stew going. Now, you might remember when Trump first floated the idea of defunding PBR and PBR. Don't defund PBR. Some of you guys still drink PBR. Don't defund PBS and NPR. Liberals wept, teachers clutched their pearls. George Stephanopoulos probably fainted. But what about Big Bird? What about Mr. Rogers? They cry. Well, folks, Mr. Rogers is dead. And PBS has been pushing drag queen story hours and gender theory to 6-year-olds ever since. I say it's time to pull the plug on public broadcasting, and Trump just yanked the cord out of the wall like a toddler on Adderall. Yeah. Thank God. You guys make sure you click that like button, of course. Now let me be clear. This move is hugely popular with the conservative base. I mean, NPR gets, I think, $300 million a year in taxpayer funding, and they still manage to sound like an Ivy League yoga instructor trying to explain Marxism over herbal tea, all while attacking the very Americans who foot the bill. I posted this meme this morning of the head of NPR You know what? Before I pull up the meme, how about I pull up her clip where she's talking about how NPR, PBS, they're not. Show us any stories that concerns them. Here she is.
As far as the accusations that we're biased, I would stand up and say, please show me a story that concerns you, because we want to know and we want to bring that conversation back to our newsroom.
Okay, well, we've got the receipts, lady. Don't worry. We'll definitely get to the stories. But here's some tweets from Catherine Marr, the voice that you just heard. Here she is, fully masked, wearing her Biden for president. The best part of AZ Get Out the Vote is my Biden grandpa hat. Some banger tweets from her, at least if you're a leftist. White silence is complicity. If you are white, today is the day to start a conversation in your community. I would love to go around my community. I live in a pretty white community. We'll walk around and be like, as a white person, it's time to start a conversation in my community. You know what I'll do is I'll go over to the historically black university on the other side of town. Austin, why is it on the other side of town? Shut up, Elmo. Oh, Elmo, what you say? 16% commit of the crime. Back in the box, Elmo. Catherine Marr tweets, this show's already off to a bad start. Today, like every single day, is yet another great day to follow more, capital B, black women, as well as all people of color on this here website. Oh, thank God. I was hoping that she wasn't going to tell me to go follow around black women. Catherine Marr tweeted, I mean, sure, looting is counterproductive, but it's hard to be mad about protests not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression founded on treating people's ancestors as private property. Okay, lots of jokes about leaving the U.S., and I get it. Oh, do you really get it, Catherine? It doesn't seem like you got it. But as someone with cis, white, mobility privilege, I'm thinking of staying and investing in ridding ourselves of this specter of tyranny. Oh, lady, please. Wah, wah. I'm so done with late-stage capitalism. Also, Donald Trump is a racist. Never underestimate the ability of white people to center ourselves. She says, I do wish Hillary wouldn't use the language of boy and girl. It's erasing language for non-binary people. She tweeted that in 2016. And not to pat myself on the back too much here, guys, but one of my best friends the other day we were talking, we had this little group chat, and a couple of us are talking about way back in 2016, and my buddy Vince was like, does everybody remember Austin telling us this story in a drunken rant at a house party in Washington, D.C. back in 2000, whenever? He's like, and Austin called all this stuff, and it was going to happen. The people were going to push this non-binary stuff, and I was just sitting there in the Telegram channel or whatever, when we were Signal or whatever. I was like, yeah. I was ahead of my time. Damn it. If you want to stay ahead of the news, then you need to be watching the Wake Up America show. Oh, you are. Hi, guys. Have you clicked the like button yet? Please do. And of course, if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, click the follow button as well. We'd love to have you be a regular guest. What do I do, Austin, to become a regular guest? Well, click the follow button and you'll get a notification when we go live in your Rumble app, which is 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the show schedule. Invite a friend. So we can all have a great time and hang out with friends. All right. So this move, Trump defunding PBS and NPR, very popular with the conservative base. Absolutely. And you love to see it because while Trump was busy taking out government propaganda, the actual public, that's us, was begging him for transparency on the Epstein client list. And this isn't just some crazy libertarian conspiracy theory. There are lots of credible conservatives in the movement who have been calling for this as well, and wondering why it is that they're looked on now suddenly as pariahs when they're just following up with what the MAGA movement promised us. Here's Matt Walsh, who is criticizing some of the people who are saying that people who are asking questions about Epstein says panicking is a huge cringe catch-all word for any conservative who questions or criticizes the Trump administration on any issue for any reason at all. Now it's being applied to those of us who want powerful child rapists to be in prison. Thank you. Pretty little baby. We appreciate that, Matt Walsh, for posting that. The New York Times editorial board claimed that defunding NPR and PBS is like defunding the police. I kid you not. This is what they think. They really equate the two. They do. Are they biased, NPR and PBS? Well, are they biased? Here's Catherine Marr, the lady whose tweets I was just reading.
As far as the accusations that we're biased, I would stand up and say, please show me a story that concerns you, because we want to know and we want to bring that conversation back to our newsroom. As far as
something tells me that they're really not that interested in these stories. Here's one reason why I think that.
I'll just read the headlines. First headline, NPR News Service. Michael Avenatti, quote, a profile of the media-savvy attorney. They love Michael Avenatti. You know where Michael Avenatti is today? He's in jail. You know why?
Kennedy's going to make me do a spit take. I got to be careful about drinking while he's telling his jokes.
He's a crook. But for a while, he was a media darling on NPR. Here's another headline from NPR.
Am I being too
How
loud?
racism became a marketing tool for country music. I kid you not. American taxpayers are spending $500 million a year to pay a local station to buy content that says country music is racist.
Look at that. They still got the stenographer down there. Even the fact that there's AI right now that could listen to everything Congress is saying and record it perfectly word for word. There's still somebody over here on the right with some kind of 1800s ass looking tool taking stenography. Can we find out what the budget is for the stenography? Is that really necessary in this day and age? So, defunding PBR and NPS. You'll love to hear it. You'll love to see it. We absolutely support it here on the Wake Up America show. But there's this other little thing that we kind of need to pay attention to. It's a story, the left, it's not a, tail wags the dog story per se. However, I'm not the only one who feels this way.
Many of us were not saying anything different from what we've been saying for years about Epstein. Okay, and also what Trump has been saying for years about it. Now Trump has decided all of a sudden that the issue doesn't matter, it's boring, and anyone who talks about it is a weakling and not one of his supporters. He decided that in the last 2 weeks. He never said that before. So the idea that we as conservatives are obligated to just adopt that perspective out of the blue is madness. It's also not possible, by the way. Even if I wanted to just decide that I don't care about this anymore, it doesn't work that way. I can't just, you can't say to me, well, you shouldn't care about this. Okay, well, then I don't. Well, never mind. Even if I wanted to obey that directive, I just can't. I care about the issue. I've cared about it for the last 5-6 years. I've cared about it the whole time. I still do. But I'm not interested in obeying that directive because I'm an American. I'm an American. I can think for myself. And if you're a person in position of power, I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to criticize you if you do something I don't like. I don't care what party you're in. But the other thing, too, is that the Epstein scandal, and this is what has to be, you have to understand, is that the Epstein scandal is not happening in a vacuum. Okay? We have not seen any high-profile or powerful people held accountable for their crimes. No one's even been fired, let alone arrested, for allowing an assassin to almost kill Trump last year. Trump was elected in 2016 partly on a promise to lock her up. We all recall that.
You think Trump would be interested, at least if he's not interested in the Epstein stuff, you'd think he'd be interested in somebody who tried to assassinate him. What's going on here?
So when do we start locking people up? Trump himself has spent 10 years calling out many different crimes and scandals, rightly so.
So I'm the first person to call bullshit on most conspiracy theories, but it isn't to say that there aren't conspiracies. There absolutely are. But most of the time when you turn on the internet, it's a full flooded flow of absolute bullshit coming at you 24,000 miles an hour as quickly as possible. Steady streams of bullshit, right? But every once in a while, you find a gold nugget coming downstream. And in the gold nugget, what I would say, the true conspiracies, the evil of the things that are going on, I do believe that the President of the United States and certain high-level officials, people in the military and Pentagon, they do have access to knowledge and stories that they enact what I call the noble lie. And it probably happens a lot more often in the intelligence communities, just because of the nature of their work, which is a lot of times, not to say that they aren't using these as red herrings to cover up some of their own misdeeds or perhaps their failures. But those nuggets, those golden nuggets, stories, those incidents that occur that I believe, like a snowball rolling downhill gathers conspiracies and conspiracy theories around them, are the kinds of things where I think these high-level officials believe that if the public knows the truth about it, it either, one, endangers the health of the state, which is the most likely scenario because the most important thing for the government is continuity of government. The state has plans and schemes and designs and blueprints to protect itself in the event of everything all the way up into including civilizational ending events. The American government will still be there, still trying to collect taxes from the ashes, and will do everything it can to survive. And so in some sense, the cover-up is self-preservation, the preservation of the state. And that is the most important thing to the government, the preservation of the state. The people come second. And I do believe that there are some nuggets of truth, some golden bits of knowledge, some arcs of the covenant, perhaps, but instead of a covenant with God, it's more like a covenant with Satan. Some incidents that people believe who have access to this knowledge believe would harm the American people. And I believe it may be possible that this is actually one of those stories. It may be possible that Trump has seen the information and chooses not to share it with us because he believes maybe both, one, that it harms the state, and two, that it would harm the American people for them to know. There's also the third possibility that it could just directly harm him, and he's implicated in some way. As of him stated, I have no idea. We only know that he borrowed Epstein's plane for his own events from time to time. There's never been any evidence that Trump has done anything harmful to young girls. And I think that he certainly should enjoy the benefit of the doubt of such because, in all the research that I've done in all the years on this story, as I have covered it, and why I find this story fascinating, and I'll explain to you in a little bit, beyond the obvious. There's personal reasons why, but I've never been able to find, a smoking gun or any kind of evidence that points in the direction of Trump committing crimes with young girls. And so I don't think that it's option number 3. I think that the cover-up has to do with the fact that people who have the access to the information think it will either harm the government or they think it will harm the American people. They may be wrong. They could be right. I still think we deserve to know the truth, but this is just what I think. Now, why is this so personally an important story to me? Because one of the posts that I've been seeing on X quite frequently is that people believe that normal people don't care about the Jeffrey Epstein story. Normal people don't care about this story, that they talk to people in real life, which I sort of don't believe, because some of the people saying this are some of the most online people I know. That normal people really don't care about that. They care about this. They care about that, right? And it's kind of the same kind of cope that I hear from people who say things like, well, Trump never said that he was going to do this in his campaign rallies. Okay, well, he said it in numerous interviews and he said it at other events. So he didn't say it specifically at a rally, so we're supposed to act like, oh, he didn't push it, right? And then all of his lieutenants who absolutely said it in many of their public events. They can't, not only the campaign on it, but I'm pretty sure Kash Patel was asked about it in his confirmation hearings. And so Matt Walsh is right that we're supposed to just turn on a dime, that we were promised all this stuff, that this was, a campaign issue, and that normies don't care about it, and that we're supposed to just shut up and turn on a dime. No, I'm with Matt Walsh on this.
Just this past weekend, he was talking again about the rigged election in 2020. Why hasn't anyone been arrested or charged for any of this? What about the people who lied about the COVID shot? What about the people who funded the BLM riots in 2020? What about the cabal of unelected bureaucrats who were using Joe Biden's auto pen to sign pardons and executive orders, effectively seizing control of the federal government? Now, back to the point, Republicans are saying that this is a major scandal. I agree. It is. So then who will be held responsible? Who will be punished? What actual person with a face and a name are you going to arrest and put in prison for this scandal? Well, Republicans are investigating it. Great. I mean, they're constantly investigating things. The problem is that nobody is ever punished at the end of it. And I don't even think that's hyperbole. Like, nobody is ever punished at the end of any of these investigations.
Yeah, never.
That's not how the Democrats operate. Democrats spent the last 4 years prosecuting Trump and throwing conservative activists and political advisors in prison. And now, even after the majority of Americans have voted for transparency and justice, we're not getting it. And that's just not going to work. It's not what any Republican voted for in the last election.
Amen.
Okay, we want to see accountability.
Yeah.
We want to know that even the rich and powerful will pay for their crimes. And that hasn't happened yet.
You'd love to see it. Absolutely.
Many of us were.
Thank you, Matt Walsh, the Daily Wire, letting us use this clip. So while Trump was busy trying to take down NPR PBS and distract from the Epstein scandal, the actual public, we were begging for transparency on the Epstein list. And instead of sunshine, we get soda. That's right. This week, Trump announced that Coca-Cola is switching back to real cane sugar thanks to him. Okay, look, I'm not saying it's not nice to get rid of high fructose corn syrup, but it's like your house is on fire and the fireman shows up and says, "Don't worry, I installed a Brita filter on your sink." Well, thank you, officer. I do like clean, soft, delicious, fresh, pure water. But the roof is collapsing and the kids are screaming, but the Coke tastes better now. This is either a distraction or a brilliant piece of PR jujitsu, maybe both. And I get it. Coke is the ultimate American brand. We won the Cold War with capitalism and Coca-Cola. But if I had to choose between revealing which billionaires were abusing children or tweaking soda ingredients, yeah, I'll take the Epstein files every time. Now, speaking of PBS and things that should have never had Twitter accounts, we need to talk about Elmo. Yes, that Elmo. Folks, if you've been online this week, you probably saw a viral tweet that made you do a double take. It wasn't just weird. It was full-blown World War II cosplay. Somehow Elmo's account got hacked and started tweeting Nazi propaganda. Imagine waking up, grabbing your phone, and seeing a red puppet with ping pong ball eyes quoting Heinrich Himmler. It's like if Barney the dinosaur suddenly joined a Telegram channel with Nick Fuentes. PBS said they were investigating. I say shut it down. Elmo's gone rogue. Burn the Tickle Me dolls. Call the puppet SWAT team. And when Trump's team saw this, boom, rescissions package. Bye-bye, Elmo. One puppet's promoting fascism. The other is wearing lingerie for kids on Balenciaga ads. What happened to Sesame Street teaching the alphabet, not the Axis powers? All right, we ready? Are we ready for the king of all libertarians to join us here? Next up, King Libertarian joins me to talk about something even more surreal. Elmo goes Nazi on Twitter, and Balenciaga selling $4,000 rolls of packaging tape. But before we go, look at that handsome dude right there in his alligator Alcatraz shirt. Only at thegriftshop.com. We've raised $25 towards the $75 bonus content goal for today's live show. Austin, what is bonus content? It's a little bit of content that you wouldn't see if you didn't unlock it. It's like the magical key. You're searching for the Ark of the Covenant. You want the best content? Well, you got to just jump over a few little hoops and congratulations. You're starting on third base. Well, maybe first base. You've hit at least a single, and maybe you'll be able to run in for a double if you've got the oomph. But we're already $25 raised towards the $75 bonus content goal, and I'm pretty sure it's thanks to the guy whose picture you see there. Look at that handsome dude there wearing his alligator Alcatraz shirt. You can get that shirt at forlibertyshop.com, and if you go to thegriffshop.com, you'll also find it. The alligator Alcatraz intake division shirt. It's so hot right now. People are buying it like crazy. They love it down there in in the American South. In Texas, in Louisiana, and Mississippi, they're wearing these shirts from thegriffshop.com. Head on over to thegriffshop.com. Help to unlock that bonus content. Every single one of your purchases that are made during the live show this morning help to unlock the content. And so far, we've raised $25 towards a $75 goal. So drop those Rumble rants or visit forlibertyshop.com. That's forlibertyshop.com. Drew Van Runkle asked the real questions over there in the chat. Says, wait a second. Is cane sugar grown on Little St. John Island? No. We'll be right back with the king of all libertarians on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe?
Here at Alligator Alcatraz, the fence keeps them in. But slip up, and you're on my plate.
Looks like breakfast is making a run for it. We got 3 hot meals trying to check out early from Alligator Alcatraz.
They can splash, they can sprint, but there's no escaping Alligator Alcatraz. Caught 2.
The third? Huh.
The swamp's got its own way of catching runaways.
Mama was wrong. Gators don't need toothbrushes. Just an honest job making America great again.
When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a red coat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors, and trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com. This summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs, and looking like a red, white, and righteous badass. Welcome to the Summer of Freedom collection. Beach towels bold enough to trigger a liberal arts professor. Tank tops louder than a 4th of July fireworks finale. And mugs that scream, "Don't tread on my caffeine."
Elmo, it's no secret why you're here, okay? Last night on X, you went on a rant targeting Jews, President Trump, and Jeffrey Epstein.
Elmo was hacked.
So you say so, okay? But Cookie Monster was in here earlier, and he said he was with you when you were posting that stuff on X. Oh, and by the way, the IP address, it's yours.
That means nothing. You can't trust that junkie.
Listen, but I have to ask, and with all due respect, look at me. Were you drinking last night?
Elmo had a glass of Chardonnay.
A glass?
Okay, fine. It was a bottle. But that's a normal Sunday night for Elmo.
And let me guess, you were watching Nick Fuentes and Dan Bilzerian content, right?
Yeah,
but nothing, all right? You tweeted, Donald Trump is Netanyahu's puppet because he's in the Epstein files and Jews control the world.
Look, Elmo knows puppets. And BB has his hand so far up Trump's ass
Elmo!
No, you're singling Elmo out. Snuffleupagus has been doing cocaine for 20 years. And Big Bird says the N-word on a consistent basis, and you do nothing!
This is why we just defunded them. Good morning, rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Make sure you click that like button if you haven't already. And thank you so much for helping to raise that bonus content cash. We've raised $25 of the $75 bonus content goal already. Save that sweet, sweet cookie dough and use it in those Rumble rants. Or visit the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com and get yourself something real nice. We don't have any Elmo merch because they would sue the hell out of us. Coming up next, King Libertarian, the king of all we libertarians, joins me to talk about something even more surreal. Elmo going actual Nazi on Twitter. Kanye West must have really appreciated that tweet storm that we saw from Elmo. Oh, wise king, good morning.
Good morning, yes. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? Tell me the exit to get past it. That's all I want to know. This is not a street that I want to hang out on.
Well, unless you're kosher, King, then I think you have nothing to worry about. But if you're Daryl Cooper, Tucker Carlson's favorite historian, then you might be in the right neighborhood.
Right. Yeah. Today's letter is H, and that stands for heroin. Yeah. In any place that would have a man living in a garbage can and another one that's clearly on painkillers and downers, wandering about the street, talking to young children is just a place that I don't want to be.
Yeah, Sesame Street's perpetually 3.5-year-old mascot caught his social media fans off guard last weekend as he traded in his wholesome tweets on X for hateful posts, including calling for violence against the Jewish community and others, using lewd language to demand that President Trump release Jeffrey Epstein's client list. Well, at least that one I think we can all identify with Elmo on, but...
Yeah, I mean, next door, the Explorer's X is going to get hacked, and it's going to be deported. Yeah, it's going to be bad. It's going to be a slaughterhouse on X here soon.
You know, I thought it was interesting that they managed to defund NPR and PBS pretty damn quick after Elmo made those anti-Semitic tweets. Did you know? We've been fighting that battle for years, but turns out that after a few anti-Semitic tweets, it's pretty easy to get yourself canceled.
Yeah, I mean that meeting was with his lawyers. The next one's he's gonna be hauled up to the boardroom. You know,
the irony in all this is that the people who are going to defend Elmo against the charges of the accusations of anti-Semitism are going to be his Jewish lawyers because there's a lot of money in it.
Yeah. Dershowitz is licking his lips right now.
Oh, King, oh wise King, what are we to make of this story?
You know, I think the main thing is called 2FA, two-factor authentication.
Who has been ringing that bell, by the way?
See, if Elmo had an iPhone, he would have got a text message saying somebody was trying to log into his account. But you know, I'll give credit to Elmo. He's the talent. It's the bureaucrats at the NPR who are useless and ineffective, who have not implemented proper cybersecurity protocols because they're losers. They work for the government. They're funded by the government. They do the bare minimum. That's why Elmo got hacked. It's because they're all bureaucrats who says, we don't own PBS. Nobody does. So who cares? Tragedy of the Commons led to Elmo getting hacked and being anti-Semitic. So it's what I'm trying to say here is it's the government's fault.
Of course. I mean, you can never go wrong with that take here.
Right.
Don't forget to click the like button if you haven't already. I'm speaking to a fellow member of the For Liberty Network, the wise king of all libertarians. His show is Liberty Tonight at rumble.com/Liberty Tonight. We're talking this morning about Elmo going rogue. Elmo unhinged, if you will. Trump's rescission bill hits Big Bird in the beak. NPR and PBS defunded. We kind of needed this win, didn't we, King? Because it's felt lately like we've been taking some L's, even though we've been told that no L's have been taken. Stop talking about the L's, focus on the W's. But it does feel like we've been on a little bit of an L streak lately. So this was sort of a win.
Yeah, the NPR and whoever else have been coming out with terrible programming by the bureaucrats. And the Department of Education got cleared to start their cuts and more cuts to the State Department and everything like that. So it did bring a warm bubble to my heart after a long stretch of cold and unlibertarian fervor to see bureaucrats crying as they were terminated in D.C. So me and Brian Piotr, we track the unemployment claims and the new home sales in the Washington, D.C. area. And I am here to report to you, the Austin Peterson audience, is that it is a bloodbath over there.
What do you mean? What's going on with the housing market in D.C. and what are the implications?
New houses coming up for sale are like up 10-20%. Unemployment claims are the same. So I know that there is some heartburn about how widespread these cuts are in the federal government. There's 2 million employees, this, that, and the other. But if you look at the hard evidence there, unemployment claims, homes going up for sale, homes staying on the market for long, people are leaving the swamp. Maybe it's only a needle moving kind of thing, but hey, I'll take 5% over 0% or plus 5%. of the growing government. So
yeah,
yes,
well, speaking of wins, King, I mean, the big wins that we see are whenever there's a new batch of government employees getting their walking papers and headed out the door. Those are the kinds of things that give
Doge
me.
cuts got codified. At least some of them did. So yeah, I think I was listening to you earlier. You know, of the types of things that we're seeing and what they could really mean. Let's not throw the Elmo out with the bathwater here and look at the bigger picture. Yes, there are a lot of things that we continue to gripe about. Don't let up on the Epstein files, but there are good things that are happening. That this is a significantly different outcome than what could have been. My God, do you think cackling Kamala being up there right now would have been any better than what we're seeing right now? My God, my Lord.
No, we would have gotten all L's, no dubs at all, right?
No.
None at all.
No.
And so, you know, I'm willing to say, you know, a lot of people are like trying to say, Austin, when are you going to call for impeachment? And they're like, we see you complaining about tariffs and about all the, and the Epstein stuff and all that. What are you like? Aren't you willing to admit that Ron DeSantis was right? And I'm.
That's your golden god, the governor of Florida. Like,
listen,
I've never seen a
he's
hat
great
or a bumper
in
sticker
Florida.
that says Ron DeSantis was right. Come on.
I mean, listen, he's great in Florida. I'm not complaining about his job as governor of Florida, but I mean, he just wasn't cut out for this job. But I think here's the thing. It's like Trump had to. He was kind of destined to come in, be the first president since Grover Cleveland, get the non-consecutive terms. The guy got shot in the head. There were a lot of things that sort of pointed at the second coming, if you will, to use a heretical term. But there have been problems. Right? We've seen things falling apart. Like, I was really upset about losing Elon Musk, and people said Elon Musk crashed out. I think that's partly true, but also he crashed out for a pretty damn good reason, right? Imagine because remember the rumors that Dan Bongino was going to quit as FBI's deputy director for like a day until Trump talked him off the ledge? Well, where there's smoke, there's fire. I mean, we've seen some of the polling that's been coming out of Rasmussen reports, and they are not like some left-wing polling firm. And Trump definitely took a hit because of the Epstein stuff. And I think a lot of people are demanding answers. Even Matt Walsh over the Daily Wire, who I would not expect to sort of take this tack, has been coming out and saying, hey, listen, it feels like we're being gaslit and lied to, told to change. We can't all be cat turd and just change on a dime. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a bucket hat that's on the way right now. I mean, in a pressed leather jacket and some big jug boots myself. So no, I mean, the honest polling, I think, is who you're talking about. Yeah, you could see the Elon fight, the Iran strike, and now this. You could see, distinctive divots in his approval rating as these things occur. But to your point, would you rather have childless wino aunt or asshole boomer grandpa? Like, this is the two archetypes we have right now. And at least Trump is entertaining, and you can like actually stand listening to him. Kamala is just a slow car wreck that just you don't want to look at it, but you can't look away. So we're still in a duopoly, folks.
Yeah, no, it's true. The Uniparty is still very much in charge. And it becomes difficult sometimes to separate fact from fiction when you're very online, as I am, and I imagine you are to an extent, in order to try and suss out what's real and what's fake. And everybody's telling us how we need to feel, Wise King, about things. And everybody's got an angle that they're all working. But I'd like to move on to the next topic, which is one of just redonkulousness, but you saw it fit to bring it to my news desk, which is the story of a Balenciaga bracelet. Not your typical Balenciaga bracelet. What kind of bracelet is it, King?
It is a packing tape bracelet. So for a cool $1,500, you can go to your local, I know there's one on every corner, CVS, Balenciaga. Just pop into your local Balenciaga and pick up this $1,500 packing tape bracelet to go along with your I've been sleeping in the streets of San Francisco pants. and I got in fight with a tiger jacket. So complete your I'm always on the run look with Balenciaga packing tape bracelet today. So go to Balenciaga.com, go pick it up right now, and then while you're at it, go to the Grift Shop and actually spend that $1,500 towards this operation, the For Liberty Network. I don't know if your fans that know their line of clothing, but the homeless transient look is very popular with the Balenciaga crowd these days, so I'm sure it'll sell out right away.
There we go. Wise King, where can we watch your hot takes and your great commentary with Brian Piotr?
Yeah, starting this next week, we are moving to Wednesdays 7 to 9 Central. So we're in the same time slot as Culturama. She's Tuesdays, Thursdays. So we have Tuesday 7 to 9, Wednesday Liberty Night 7 to 9, and then Thursdays, again, Culturama, 7 to 9. So you'll have that time slot, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, throughout the week to enjoy after you're done here on the Wake Up America show.
Thank you, King. We appreciate you and your time. Have a wonderful day, and we shall see thee soon.
Donald Trump wants to stage a UFC fight on the White House lawn. The last time he staged a fight in D.C., Mike Pence almost died. All right. No, you don't have to do that. It was fine. I didn't write it. Actually, there was supposed to be an Epstein joke here, but as it got deleted. Must have probably deleted itself, right? Probably never existed, actually. Let's move on as a country and ignore that. The New York...
Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm glad and thankful to have you here. If you're just tuning into the live show today, we've been talking about Jeffrey Epstein, of course, Elmo's anti-Semitic rant. Coca-Cola will be made with pure cane sugar again. And we've still got lots more great content to go. It's 7:49 a.m. Central Time. We've got an hour and 10 left. We've got another guest on the show. No Daniela Pensac today. Still getting Wi-Fi installed in her apartment. But we should have her back on normal next week. We do have more content for you today to fill in the gaps, so don't you worry. We've still got lots of great stuff to go. However, since we've got another guest coming up in less than 10 minutes, don't you want to see the bonus content instead of commercials? What does this mean, Austin? Bonus content instead of commercials. If you're a regular on the show, you might be rolling your eyes and saying, I've heard it already. But if you're new, you need to know that we have bonus content here ready and waiting just for you to unlock. It's a little unlockable that we do every day on the Wake Up America show. And if we don't unlock the bonus content, it goes away forever. We condemn it to the pit of hell. We curse it, and no one ever gets to see it. So let's activate that fear of missing out so we can get the best marketing in the world, so that we can make the best live news talk show in the morning in the world stay on live for next month as well. Help to support the Wake Up America show and the For Liberty Network by either making a Rumble Rant contribution during the live show or going to the Grift Shop. Exit through the Grift Shop, but don't exit yet. At thegriftshop.com. Visit thegriftshop.com. And all of your purchases that you make are going to be 10% off if you use the code WAKEUP. And those will unlock the bonus content. So if you want a 10% discount on your purchase to help unlock the bonus content, if you go to thegriftshop.com, when you get to the checkout, just type in the code WAKEUP for 10% off. That's code WAKEUP. During the live show this morning, it will unlock that bonus content. So this morning we've been talking about Elmo, the red fuzzball from Sesame Street. He had his Twitter account hacked last weekend. And then he went in from sunny to sunny days, sweeping the clouds away, to final solution is release the Epstein files. I just need to cover the sides of my mustache. Can you guys picture it? Hold on, from there. There we go. Don't do the hand gesture, Austin. You already look kind of like him. You're Danish, so you're close enough. Nothing to look like him. Hold on. I only feel like I can do this because the soldiers in World War II, whenever you saw the pictures, remember how they would take the comb? Have you ever seen some of the videos? Like the soldiers used to take a black comb right? And they would do the Jeffrey Epstein. They would do the Adolf Hitler impression where they would put a black comb up to their face and they'd do that like, and they used to do the whole Nazi salute as like a whole kind of thing as part of the act, but they needed to blow off some steam because they were, killing Hitler, but Hitler was doing a good job of killing himself. Now we need another hit job, but this time it's on Elmo. Elmo didn't get hacked. He got radicalized. He went from left Nazi to right Nazi. He just did the whole socialist turn. He went from communist, Marxist, anarcho-syndicalist socialist to fascist, to maybe he was like a libertarian for 5 seconds on his way through as he made his way through neoconservatism and then building their way up to paleoconservatism. They had his Ron Paul years, and then he went, and now he's Pat Buchanan, right? But then he just jumped off the cliff to Nick Fuentes land and Kanye West. Now Elmo, through the alt-right pipeline, has ended up full Nazi, full Hitler. But PBS and NPR say, don't worry about it, give us lots of money.
I ask them for examples. People often struggle to come up with examples of what really they're talking about. So we're always interested, obviously, in making sure that we're serving a multiplicity of viewpoints. Bill Buckley made his home on public broadcasting with a series called Firing Line, which continues today with Margaret Hoover.
That was the wrong person to name if you wanted to be in step. But this is how out of touch the Democrats are. Not to rant on anything like that. I like Bill Buckley's Firing Line. I love watching some of those old videos of those debates. I love to watch, what was the debate between him and Gore Vidal, where Gore Vidal called him a Nazi or something? That was like, it was a crazy debate. It was a good old day. Back in the days when you could really have like awesome debates on television and people would watch them. Of course, there were only 5 television stations. So yeah, people needed PBS and NPR. We don't need publicly funded media that, by the way, directly competes with me. Every dime that I pay into taxes that goes to NPR or PBS is saying, oh, well, it's more important for us to take your money that you're using to try and build a competing media business and put it into the hands of your competitors. Because if you're listening to PBR or NPS, you're not listening to me. Not that you necessarily would listen to NPR or PBS and also listen to the Wake Up America show, but I can imagine there might be a few crossover voters. But still, anyways, my tax payer dollar shouldn't go to my competitors. However, to show how out of touch the Democrats are, as he meanders, to show how out of touch the Democrats are, they're still saying Bill Buckley. They're using Bill Buckley as if this is like the party of Mitt Romney still, right? Tucker Carlson calling out Bill Buckley in speeches. Dave Smith out there, oh, Bill Buckley, he was the greatest evil next to Winston Churchill. Greatest evil next to, I don't know, somebody who is actually good, but libertarians and libturds and communists think was bad. But Bill Buckley, right up there with Pol Pot and Che Guevara, Bill Buckley. And here's the left saying, oh, PBS, we had Bill Buckley on in the day.
Viewpoints, Bill Buckley made his home on public broadcasting with a series called Firing Line, which continues today with Margaret Hoover. We are interested in having different perspectives that we bring forward. But when I look at the range of our programmings on public broadcasting, I can't make any sense of an argument that we are somehow biased in any way.
Please! Oh my God. No. How can you lie to my face like that? We got Camellia Peterson here in less than 5 minutes, guys. Don't forget to unlock that bonus content so we can watch fun bonus content instead of not as fun commercials, but still kind of fun commercials. PBS staff used 162 variations of, quote, far-right labels and only 6, quote, far-left labels, an astounding ratio of 27-1. So PBS perpetually finds a far-right, but they never find the far left. 162 times they mention the extreme right. 6 times they mention the extreme left. Extreme left. One study found that on so-called gender ideology stories, PBS NewsHour dedicated 90% of the airtime to leftist views. There's nothing independent about PBS. This is the PBS White House correspondent, Yamache Alcindor, sounds like a Lord of the Rings character, characterized President Trump's patriotic Mount Rushmore speech as a love letter to white resentment.
I think what we're seeing is a president who's determined to fly in the face of the experts and his own health officials, environmental experts, as well as people who are saying that there's really a myth of America, that this idea that America treated people well, that they treated men and women equally, that we founded this country just by our own wit, that is actually a lie, and that in fact what we're seeing is a celebration of America's independence on land that was stolen from Native Americans, and it's being seen and overlooked by two presidents, their figures rather, that owned slaves, and a third president in Roosevelt who talked about going westward and who oversaw the desecration of native lands. That's why you saw so many people in this country, especially people of color, look really, really disturbed when the president and then candidate Trump started saying "Make America Great Again." He's really fitting in this history that is in some ways a Republican history about the idea that they're really looking at white resentment and giving people who are worried about the future of America, but who are also angry at the idea of America browning, and giving them a place to say, you know what, you are the victim. This country owes you more, instead of looking toward the future and saying, actually, let's.
You dumb bitch. I mean, how could you be any more indoctrinated? Cell Blocked says, no disrespect, AP, love your show. Ordering Thomas Painkiller after work. Cheers. How is that disrespect? It's not disrespect at all. It's like the most respectful thing you could ever be doing. You guys can too. Try and get some during the live show, though, to help unlock that bonus content. We got Camellia Peterson coming up next. We'll ask her about Jennifer Love Hewitt's fat thighs as an old woman who had too many kids, and now she's big and fat and posting photos of her big, fat, white ass. No, we're going to talk to her about that and serving and tips. Don't kill me. Don't go away. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Ladies.
Summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs, and looking like a red, white, and righteous badass. Welcome to the Summer of Freedom collection. Beach towels bold enough to trigger a liberal arts professor. Tank tops louder than a 4th of July fireworks finale. And mugs that scream, "Don't tread on my caffeine." Whether you're storming the sandbar or just grilling like George Washington with a Bluetooth speaker, this is the gear that lets everyone know. You're not here to play woke. You're here to play cornhole with conviction. So crack open a cold one, fire up the freedom, and rock the merch that makes communists cry. The Summer of Freedom is here. And it's absolutely unapologetic.
Here.
Patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness. The Gulf of America isn't just a place, it's a lifestyle. Hit 4libertyshop.com and roll into summer like the Founding Fathers just handed you the keys to the coast. Beaches, BBQs, and bald eagles approved. You should too. Head over to 4libertyshop.com and get your Gulf of America gear. Summer is coming fast. That's 4libertyshop.com. Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers. Pronouns are mandatory. And Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop for libertyshop.com.
Shador Sanders had his jersey number retired at Colorado this year, and people are saying it's because of nepotism, because of his father, and it's not. It's because he went 13-12 over his career, and he almost won the Alamo Bowl. Definitely not nepotism, right? All right. It's a big year for the WNBA. I love Caitlin Clark. Yeah, hell yeah. Caitlin Clark, she and I have a lot in common. We're both whites from the Midwest who have nailed a bunch of threes. All right, there you go. Lighten up a little. This is not serious. We'll see about this one. When Caitlin Clark retires from the WNBA, she's going to work at a Waffle House so she can continue doing what she loves most, fist fighting black women.
Good morning, rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. That's racist. No, it's not. I'm not racist. I'm fat phobic. Jennifer Love Hewitt is making the news these days. You guys remember Jennifer Love Hewitt from such Hollywood greats as I Know What You Did Last Summer and anybody else? Can't Hardly Wait? Oh, yeah. Well, she posted a photograph of herself recently. She's been making the rounds as she does a little cameo in the new I Know What You Did Last Summer remake. And, well, let's just say, I'll pull up the photograph here. She's just looking a little different than she used to, perhaps a little wider. I won't say dumpier, because, I mean, it is a beautiful dress, but I mean, you got skin hanging off the arms. You've got a much flatter chest. Her body's a different shape. She's not the Jennifer Love Hewitt that maybe a lot of us crushed on. But lest we have our own opinions or think for ourselves, Sassafras84 over on X says, it saddens me to see petty bitches online fat-shaming a woman who is 46 and has 3 kids. In my opinion, she looks amazing. You get older, you gain weight, it happens. Okay, that's true. You get older, you gain weight, it happens, as I know quite well. But here to joining us to discuss this and more is a lady who had 2 kids and yet looks amazing. And so perhaps Jennifer Love Hewitt, maybe if you'd had 3 kids, Camellia, then you'd look as big and wide and flabby as Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Well, look, in all transparency here, I had my time of weight gain after children. So, like we have our ups and downs. That much is true. I think the important part is that we go back down, right, in an attempt to get healthy, because we should be doing that for our kids, right? I mean, it's not, of course, it's not just for us and how we want to look. I mean, it's totally not that.
Oh, honestly, I'm not going to lie. In January, Stephanie and I going to the gym, hitting the weights. I've been hitting the weights hard because if I hadn't, man, lifting that car seat up and over to the other side with the baby in it, man, when I'm carrying the baby, like you have got to have some powerful arms.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Here's the real story, Camellia, or at least the one that I'm cooking up. My distorted angle on this one is that I see a lot of these posts. Like here's another one I'm scrolling up to right now. It says, Jennifer Love Hewitt is still gorgeous at 46, and anyone criticizing her should have to post their own full body picture. Okay, first of all, deal. Totally will do that. Watch my X account later for a nice full body pose. I've done it before, and, I'm not afraid to do so. But secondly, it feels like the real story, Camellia, is that somebody's telling us what we're supposed to find beautiful. Someone's telling us what we're supposed to like. Well, I don't know if you guys have seen Steven Seagal lately, but he does look a little different now than he used to when he was in action films in the 1980s, but he's still gorgeous. And anybody criticizing Steven Seagal is crazy because, honestly, you should still find Steven Seagal attractive, even if he's 400 pounds, 6 chins, hasn't shaved, can barely stand up. But you should find that sexy, right, Camellia? Right, Camellia? You do find it sexy, right?
seen Steven Seagal lately, but I have heard that women like dad bods. Does he fall in the dad bod category?
This is like great grandpa bod. It's not dad bod. Dad bod's like what I have, right? Muscles with a little extra to love. But no, he looks like he's like on death's door. He's so gigantic.
Well,
but why do we feel the need to tell other people what they need to find attractive? I mean, do we have to find what's the psychology on this one, Camelia?
I mean, well, it's because we're looking at ourselves. This is projection, right? We don't want other people to find us unattractive. So we, compare, and it is this acceptance. We want to be accepted. So we don't want the norm or the standard to be something that makes us feel negative about ourselves. And I will say that, like, maybe we shouldn't be shaming people for, we shouldn't be telling people what they find attractive, because yes, there are some societal norms, but boy, men vary very widely on what they find attractive. So,
men will be with anything, Camelia, right?
Threes.
Yeah. Women are picky and men are not. And that's just a fact. But I mean, it gets so tiresome that because this story always makes the rounds. Some celebrity gets old and fat, and then a bunch of chicks come along and tell us she's not fat, she just had babies and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of like, what? It's this desire to be beautiful for other people that just consumes so many people. Because what we're really seeing is not Jennifer Love Hewitt. The story is about all the crazy narcissists who get mad at men for being 42 years old and dating a 23-year-old. Isn't that really what this is about?
I mean, we saw this somewhat to a certain extent, I guess, in a different way with Pamela Anderson Lee when she's decided to go like no makeup, right? So there's all these pictures of her out there, of the former beach babe, right? And she's, she doesn't look quite the same. She got older and she's not wearing makeup. And so there are negative reactions on one side about that, but then other people say this is, they're praising it and lauding it as a good thing. And, I think that we've largely gotten past this body positivity business, although I think that a lot of people just naturally, it's human nature to want to hang on to that. Because like I said, we don't want to feel ashamed for how we look, so we don't, when we see somebody, hey, like they're like us, like I had kids, I gained some weight, right? Look, she did too. And she's a movie star. Like she's still pretty like that. It's sheer projection. So I think it's normal, but I do think it's a very good thing that we largely have seen to move on from this over-the-top body positivity. But I will say that it still exists in a lot of the advertising you see, with clothing on like Amazon and the stores in the different places, and they will give me pictures that are like, I can't relate to that at all, and it does nothing to like sell this article of clothing to me, right? So I mean, I think there's still some of that, but it's getting better.
There is a conversation that this country is not ready to have, but which will rear its ugly head here between you and me here for a couple of minutes before it makes its way to like Piers Morgan Uncensored next year or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that is the conversation about what it is that men actually find attractive, because and I would think you would agree that we live in a very feminized society. And one of the symptoms of the feminized society is that there is only one side of a story that is ever heard in the media and the press and the news. And that is what women want and what women think men want and what women want, and then more about what women think men want, but never any real examination of what men actually want, because what men actually want tends to disgust you. And so therefore you never hear about what it is men want. Now let's put aside all of the things that actually, would disgust women and talk about things that may more mildly disgust women. And that is that certain things that women really highly value and place a lot of emphasis on and spend billions of dollars a year on, men don't care about. Men don't give a shit about. Because if you think that men really like just get off on the job of makeup that it does to women's faces and to your appearances, if you think that men really highly value that, I think that you are living again in the feminized world. Because the reality is that I think that the makeup thing is really more for other women, and in some part because women think that that's really, going to help them attract a man, right? In some cases, you might be a 5 and it might make you a 6. But at the end of the day, do you think a man's going to turn down a 5 in order to wait for another 6? Only the most shallowest of men, or the most well capable, who can get anybody they want, in which case let's not use the outlier for this one. But what is it that men want, right? Do we want gigantic boobs? Sure, great if they're there, but if we can't have gigantic boobs, do you think that we care? Do you think that there's ever been a man who's been disappointed when he found that there was a foam bra underneath? Do you think that? No, because he's just happy that he got that far. It's true that the women don't understand male psychology in these things. And so a lot of this is like me just winding women up, because it's not like they're going to listen to my actual opinion on things like this anyway, right? Because I'm a man. But isn't there so much of this, like just like women's collective psychoses and a lot of projection and a complete obliviousness to how men actually feel about how women look?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I think it's probably a little disingenuous to say that men don't place any kind of value at all on what makeup does for appearance, because, most men will say, oh, I really prefer the natural look, on women or whatever. What they actually mean by that when they post a picture of it is somebody who has a considerable amount of makeup on, but it's not garish, right? It's made to look a little more quote unquote natural. So they're like, and it's a pretty big difference. Like when you talk about the difference that mascara makes and eyeliner and, these kind of things, like they are subtle enhancements in a lot of ways, but they really can kind of have a big impact. And I think that we've seen, if you want to talk about biological imperatives, like we have seen this in mankind for thousands of years. I mean, the Egyptians used to do this. Women throughout, history have done things to accentuate their features and to exaggerate them to a certain extent. So there's clearly something appealing to men about that. Is it a competition thing among women? Yes, but would it be a competition thing if there wasn't some appeal to men, if there wasn't some reinforcement that happens as a result of that? I mean, there's got to be that component.
Sure, but that's why, I didn't say that it's completely discounted women wearing makeup, but that it's really not the thing that we look at and put as much emphasis on as befits a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's way, way overblown, as is bust size, as are many other things that women place value in. I would say that the one of the things that men, in terms of physicality for what they desire in women, is the one thing where, how I said earlier that women are disgusted with what it is that men actually want. Here's something that will disgust you more on a medium level. There's mild disgust and then there's medium disgust. Here's another one of those things that's going to give women medium disgust: the length and fullness and volume of your hair. The length and volume and fullness of a woman's hair is a direct message to men that most women, I think, unconsciously understand, and then some women consciously understand it and then consciously choose to shave their heads. For example, it's a common thing among men when women aren't around and we're having discussions in the locker room that if a wife cuts her hair or shaves her head, God forbid, or does like some little like bobby kind of a thing, that she hates her husband. This is kind of an understanding that that if she does something like that, it's a sign. It's not just like letting yourself go. You can let yourself go, and anybody could say, "Oh, you're going to eat a bunch of chocolate and cheeseburgers and get fat," right? Something like that happens over time. But if you make a drastic decision like cutting your hair off, chopping it all off one day, right, and you don't even tell them you're going to do it, and you just show up one day and it's like, "Oh yeah, I just want to do it." Like, listen, everybody's autonomous and they can do what they want with their bodies and things like that. But it's a signal to men how you feel about us, the way that you wear your hair, which is why in Muslim cultures, they ban it.
So, like, I like, as always, I think there are outliers, and I think that there are women who probably actually, shorter styles do flatter their faces and their features. They typically tend to be more petite women. However, that said, like, I think the evidence that what you say is true is that there's been these what they call dry bars. Do you know what a dry bar is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like, so I had no clue what a dry bar is until, I don't know, probably a year ago. But it's literally a place that you go to add volume to your hair. So we have all of these different kinds of ways. We have volumizing hair products and shampoo and all of these things and places that you can go and get special treatments done to give your hair more volume. People put, like, Christy Noem puts hair extensions in her hair to give it more length and curl. Like, so there's all kinds of things that women do to do all of the things that you said about our hair. I do, a lot of those things, although, like, I'm not going to go spend, a few $100s on it. But I do think that there are, that is illustrative of that natural tendency. And this is women responding to what men want.
It is a challenge for us to communicate it to us because I think there's just so much outrage surrounding the topic. But I'd like to move on to another topic that's where the outrage will be less directed at me and the female viewers who are watching the Wake Up America show. I'm speaking to Camellia Peterson this morning. She's here every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 a.m. Central on the Wake Up America show. We're glad and thankful to have her here. If you guys love Camellia, make sure that you join us here on this show Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 a.m. Central Time. She basically almost never misses it. And she's one of my favorite guests. She's been with us since the very beginning. So here's what happened. And a Los Angeles-based influencer literally calls herself the foodie bitch. Great name. Goes to a trendy Italian joint in East Hollywood, eats the focaccia, slurps the branzino, praises the staff, and then tipped 15%. Okay. Now listen, 15% used to be the standard, but apparently now that is considered low-key harassment because a few days later, the waitress slid into her comments and said, "Hey, just wondering what went wrong with the service. You said nice things, but you stiffed us on the tip." And of course, the internet lost its collective breadsticks. Camellia, 15%, yay or nay?
I mean, it depends, right? So you're right. Like, the tipping standard has gone up. Maybe this is inflation in tipping. I don't know. But, and there's a lot of complaints about that because obviously, every time you turn around, the tip option is in front of you. And sometimes they get very aggressive about it. But, my standard now is, like, if you get good service, everything's fine. Like, I think 20% is basically the standard now. If it's kind of okay, like, okay, 15%. Like, if it's truly terrible, I'll still tip you, but it'll only be 10%. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this was interesting. This food critic and the waitress had this long, very civil discussion on Instagram, but I think it, to me, like, I understand that she's saying that this food is very expensive and, blah, 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 blah. But also, she's making money off of doing this. So I think that it really was a cop-out on the influencer's part to say, oh, the food is so expensive, so I only tipped 15%, because her complaint was not about the service that she received. And the waitress's point was that, this girl is making money off of them because they are in the video that she's posting about this restaurant in this review. So, they didn't say, yes, I consent to you filming me and then posting it on the internet and making money on it, right? So they have a little bit of a vested interest in this. But, this foodie is also, like, every bit of that check is a write-off. Right. This is a business for her. So when you're talking about the difference between 15 and 20% and you've gotten good service, and I don't care if you think that the food's a little more expensive, like, you knew going in how much this is going to be. So, suck it up and pay the extra, $5 probably that it's going to be to actually get it to 20%. I mean, it just is. It's cheap, right? And I think it was right to call her out on it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it was done in a respectful way. But again, like, this is her business. Like, it's total write-off. She has no room to complain here.
There we go. Camellia Peterson, she'll tell you what she thinks. Whether it's about women's fat asses or fat tips. Camellia, we always love having you here on the show. We've been friends for a long time now. You just gone from living out in the woods, Mennonite, to a full-blown lobbyist here in Washington, D.C., all before our eyes, because Camellia, 3 years ago or 4 years ago or whatever it was when I was at the radio station and all this kind of stuff, you're still working your way up. I mean, do you kind of look back on how quickly your rise in Missouri politics came? And is it kind of like breathtaking? Do you like catch your breath looking back on the summit, like the valley that you were in to the heights of where you are now?
The heights of where I am now. Oh, yeah. No, things do change very quickly, right? I mean, there are a lot of ups and downs. I will say that, I tell people that transparency was my midlife crisis, but also I kind of tell people what I think now very nicely in the nicest way possible, right? But I think, too, that one of the big things that I think probably has made the biggest difference in all of the last several years is that I took an attitude of saying yes to new opportunities anytime that I could. And so, when you pushed me into doing new things, like I say yes, as much as I can, as is reasonable, but it has been quite a journey, yes.
Oh, I've never known you to say no. I mean, we've had a lot of adventures together in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, we got to be pretty good friends after 2018. Now it's 2025, and I think we've got a lot of more fun and exciting things that are happening here in the future. I guess the next time we'll see each other is a little Hazel's first birthday party, talking about big things that have happened. So, I'm 44 years old now. I still feel like I'm beautiful. I still feel like I'm sexy, and I think everybody should have to acknowledge it. Camellia Peterson, I'm sure you feel the same. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Well, black is a slimming color.
That's why I wear it. Have a good one, Camellia.
And speaking of the WNBA jokes at the beginning, so I'm in Indianapolis, and on the side of my hotel is a gigantic WNBA because there's something going on here this week, and I have no idea what it was because I don't watch women's basketball.
No shit.
Anyway, have a great week, everyone. We'll see you Tuesday.
Thank you, Camellia. We'll follow Camellia over on X at Rare Camellia because she is a very rare Camellia at Rare Camellia on X. Take care. Bye-bye.
And there's Charles Woodson. How about that? What a season he had. Great, man. He became the first defensive player to win the Heisman Trophy. And congratulations, Charles. That is something that no one can ever take away from you. Unless you kill your wife and a waiter, in which case, all bets are off. Just a word of advice.
AJ Simpson joke there. Thank you, Norm MacDonald, for that. You guys, you've unlocked the bonus content. You get to watch it now when we get back. 4 economic myths that were debunked. Did you guys only tip $5? Did you only do one purchase at thegriftshop.com? What, am I nothing to you? What, you spit all over me, right? I'm gonna look into you guys. Only $5 Rumble Rants should be $10. Come on, like Camellia said, an extra $5, what's it gonna do for you? We'll be right back, guys.
You remember the TSA shoe rule, right? That absurd ritual where millions of travelers every day have to take off their shoes, toss them in plastic bins, and shuffle barefoot through security lines like they're on some kind of barefoot prison detail. For nearly 2 decades, this humiliating, pointless hassle was standard procedure. And now, in July 2025, the TSA is finally admitting it was all a colossal waste of time. The shoe removal rule started after 9/11, when Richard Reed, the infamous shoe bomber, tried to blow up a plane by hiding explosives in his sneakers. Scary? Sure. Necessary to make everyone remove their shoes forever? Absolutely not. Here's the kicker. Since Reed's failed attempt in 2001, there hasn't been a single shoe bomb incident. Not one, nada, zero. That's nearly 20 years of millions of people taking off their shoes for no real security reason other than because TSA says so. Talk about overkill. Meanwhile, other countries with tough airport security don't have a shoe removal rule. Israel, one of the most security-conscious countries on the planet, relies on behavioral profiling and intelligence gathering. They watch your behavior and interview you, not force you to go barefoot. The US? We took the theatrical route because nothing says we're protecting you like forcing millions to slip off their socks in public. Fast forward to July 2025. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announces that passengers can now keep their shoes on while going through TSA checkpoints. The official story? Cutting-edge technology and a multi-layered security approach mean shoe removal is no longer necessary. But let's be honest, this change isn't about some new scanner magic. It's about political pressure and public outrage after nearly 20 years of humiliating, inconvenient nonsense. Airlines and airports complained that TSA procedures created bottlenecks and pissed off customers, so the TSA finally blinked. This is a welcome change. Shorter lines, less hassle, and a small win for travelers. But don't get carried away. It doesn't mean the TSA suddenly became competent. They still miss fake bombs in undercover tests. They still confiscate water bottles and pat down grandmas. They still mess up plenty of other things. The shoe removal rule is the perfect example of government overreach and wasted resources. It wasn't designed to catch terrorists, but to put on a show, to make the public feel safer. Economists estimate Americans wasted a collective 30,000 years of life just taking shoes off and on at TSA lines over the past 2 decades. That's a hell of a lot of lost time for zero demonstrable security benefit. The shoe rule is security theater, a policy designed to make travelers feel protected without actually increasing safety. Bruce Schneier, who coined the term, has called the shoe rule a classic example of this. All appearance, no substance. The TSA clung to the shoe rule like a security blanket for years, afraid to change because what if something happened? But the fact is, it never needed to exist in the first place. Now that it's finally gone, we should ask, what other TSA rituals are just theater? The 311 liquid limits, laptop removals, the invasive pat-downs, the endless bins? The TSA needs to stop fighting the last war, reacting to old threats with blunt, pointless rules that waste everyone's time. The real security wins come from intelligence, good police work, and real investigations, not shoe removal or confiscating your tiny shampoo bottles. So enjoy this rare TSA concession. Next time you breeze through security with your shoes on, remember, the TSA might still be watching, but they're finally learning the difference between real security and security theater.
You know, AOC, look, I think she's very nice, but she's very low IQ. And we really don't need low IQ. Between her and Crockett, we're going to give them both an IQ test to see who comes out best. Now, I took my test. I took a real test at Walter Reed Medical Center, and I aced it. I got every one of all those questions right. Now it's time for them to take a test. Anyway, have a good time.
Joining me now, Professor Chris Fryman, economist and truth teller at West Virginia University's John Chambers College of Business and Economics. Chris, good to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I don't know. I didn't realize I was the big brain segment. I think maybe you made a mistake, but I don't know. I'll do my best.
Austin doesn't make mistakes, but if he does, then they go the place where the Epstein list is. So, Chris, glad to have you here. You're an economist. You're a truth teller. You're here to separate fact from fiction today. That's what we need. I want to know why you say that it is a myth that the poor are getting poorer in America, because everybody else is telling me that things are getting worse, right wing, left wing, this country is going to hell in a handbasket, and the poor are getting poorer, and the rich are getting richer. Tucker Carlson said it last week. Your reaction?
Yeah, thank you. I should say I'm actually a political philosopher who's just economically literate enough to get into trouble, but happy to dispel some economic myths. So yeah, so it is sort of interesting that you see this rhetoric on the right and the left, that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, but it's just not true. So, so we're doing the big brain stuff, I guess. I'll get a little bit philosophical. So here's this question that we have to ask before we can answer the question, are the poor getting poorer? What does it mean to be poor? What does it mean to be rich? And basically, what it means to be rich is to have the ability to consume a lot of stuff. And what it means to be poor is to lack that ability to consume a lot of stuff. And so once you understand what poverty is, this sort of inability to consume goods and services, you can see that in fact, the poor are getting richer over time. So the goods and services that, in particular, the American poor are able to consume today versus what they were able to consume in 1950 or 1980 or even the year 2000, the quantity and the quality has increased. And one way of kind of getting at this idea is by looking at what some economists call the time price of goods. So you just say, look, how many hours or how many minutes would the typical American have to work to buy a loaf of bread in 1980? And I'm just making up this number. I don't know what the number is off the top of my head, but the general gist of this is right. So in 1980, it might have cost a typical worker, 24 minutes at work to buy a loaf of bread. Now it's something like 12 minutes. And so the paycheck that the American poor are receiving today versus 20 years ago, 40 years ago, just buys them a lot more stuff.
So people aren't getting poorer, but the media and politician needs them to feel poor to sell socialism, essentially?
So I think this is a really interesting question, is why is this narrative so popular? And my hunch is that, look, if you say the world is getting worse, the economy is getting worse, everybody is getting poorer except for a handful of billionaires, then it does make it an easier sell to say, look, we have to overhaul the system. We have to destroy the system. We have to implement something like democratic socialism. We have to tax billionaires out of existence, all this stuff. The system is horrible. Therefore, we have to destroy it and build something new. That kind of vision becomes a much easier sell if you can convince people that their lives are bad and getting worse.
So it's easier to justify bad policy if the public feels like they're victims?
Or just in general that their life is getting worse, and not just slightly worse, but much, much worse. And it's not the sort of thing that we can fix with small reforms. We have to tear down the entire system, destroy capitalism, implement socialism. If people actually knew that they were much richer today than they were 40 years ago, they might say, hey, this capitalist system is pretty good. Lots of room for improvement. I mean, I'm the first person to say there are lots of ways we could make the situation better, but we don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Capitalism is great. It makes everyone richer. We could do more to make our system more capitalist, but this, the solution is to reform capitalism, make it a bit more free, deregulate all these sorts of things that I'm sure you know about, rather than throw out the entire system in favor of socialism.
Well, I hear a lot of right-wingers these days actually crossing over and saying things like Bernie Sanders is actually right, and that they may not agree with the left on social issues, but what I hear from Tucker Carlson, Peter Navarro, Howard Lutnick, and Josh Hawley, and many others on the right these days, is that Bernie Sanders, AOC, they're actually right. They're not actually raising the minimum wage high enough. And one of the things that they point to, and this has a lot of right-wing Zoomers, especially beating the drum of central planning, is that no one can afford houses anymore. They talk about how earlier generations used to be able to purchase a house with a single person's income, and they could take care of an entire household and afford a really nice house. And now the American dream, literally home ownership, is out of reach for many people, not able to purchase their houses until they turn 90 years old. And that's why so many young people, including right-wingers, are embracing more central planning ideals and blaming shadowy conspiracies like BlackRock. How would you react or respond to that?
So that's a great question. It's an important issue, and I agree that rising housing costs it's a monumental problem. I mean, everybody's worried about it, and rightly so. And my initial thought is to just give a very simple kind of thought experiment. So if, the price of, I'll just stick with the bread example. If the price of bread started skyrocketing, how would we expect self-interested bakers to respond? They would say, oh, wow, bread's really expensive. I can make tons and tons of money by exploiting this baking more bread and selling it, reaping tons and tons of profit. Now, of course, if lots of bakers are doing this, they say, all right, I'm going to take advantage of the rising price of bread. I'm going to bake more bread. I'm going to sell it, make money. Well, then the supply of bread goes up, and eventually the price of bread goes back down. This is just, Econ 101 type stuff. And so the question is, why don't we see this dynamic in the housing market? So you would say, look, developers say, housing prices are skyrocketing. I can make a killing by building more housing, get a ton of profit. Everyone's thinking the same thing. As a result, the supply of housing goes up, the price comes back down, and now housing becomes more affordable. So the question is, why isn't the housing market responding in the way that, we would expect the bread market or other sorts of bread markets to respond to a rise in prices? And the short answer is the government just makes it very, very difficult to build. And there are all sorts of examples of this, but people talk a lot, and rightly so to my mind, about the NIMBY movement, where you want to build housing, you want to build apartments, you want to build condos, whatever. And, you have to get rounds and rounds of community input and community approval, and there are zoning regulations, all these sorts of things. It's just very, very difficult due to the regulatory environment to build more housing. So I would say people are right to be worried about this. The price of housing should be going down, but the way to solve this problem is to just let the market do its magic in the same way we let it do its magic when it comes to things like groceries or cars or anything else.
I'm speaking to Chris Fryman this morning. He's debunking some popular economic myths. We just went through the first economic myth is that the poor are getting poorer in the United States. The second myth, let's move on. Unions gave us weekends and the 40-hour work week. You say that's a myth.
Yes, that is a myth. So, there are interesting surveys of economic historians, and you say, who or what is primarily responsible for the shortened work week? And the vast majority of them say economic growth, not unions. And you can actually, again, there's all sorts of interesting data on this. But here again, I would give you a thought experiment. Well, I guess this is an issue not just about work hours, but also sort of wages. So there's this idea that unions are primarily responsible for the increase in workers' wages. And if you have more wages, then you don't have to work quite as long to afford basic necessities, this sort of thing, and so you can take more time off. So an employer is not going to pay an employee more than their marginal product. So in other words, if an employee only brings $20 of value per hour to an employer, they're not going to pay that employee $21 per hour because they would just be losing money on the deal. So it could be the case that certain employees are underpaid. So maybe the employee who brings $20 per hour to the employer is only making $18 an hour. And maybe unions, through pressure and bargaining and things like that, could bring that person's wages up a little bit. But they will never be able to push that worker's wage above $20 an hour because no employer is going to pay somebody who only brings in $20 an hour, $21 an hour. They're not going to lose money on the deal. So I do think unions can, make some sort of a difference on the margin. They can, improve workers' conditions a little bit. But really what drives higher wages is making workers more productive and accelerating economic growth. And then once workers are more productive, and this sort of goes back to the point I was making earlier about the time price of goods, if you can afford your day's calories on 1 hour of work as opposed to 5 hours of work, then you just need fewer hours per week to afford everything that you want to buy. And so you can have, a shorter work week and still get by. So unions might be a little bit of a help in terms of pushing up workers' wages and reducing their hours. But really what helps is making workers more productive, enabling them to afford more, enabling them to take more time off.
I love this. I'm speaking to Chris Fryman this morning, his first time on the Wake Up America show. He's a professor. He's debunking some major economic myths. Make sure you clip this segment and share it with your socialist friends if you still have any and they haven't completely denaturalized you from your families and quit speaking to you like so many have. Social spending is decreasing. This is the myth, right? The third myth, that social spending is decreasing. The left was freaking out about cuts to Medicaid from the big, beautiful bill. Is social spending decreasing, Chris?
No, in fact, it's quite the opposite. So it's been increasing steadily for a very long time. And the primary driver of this is entitlement programs. So Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and so on. If you just look at the long-term trend of the last century or so, social spending in the United States, and not just the United States, but almost everywhere, it's been increasing. There are a variety of reasons for this, but when people talk about, an austerity program, they talk about this not just in the U.S., but people in like European socialists are very concerned about austerity in Europe. It's just not the case that social spending has decreased. When it comes to the percentage of social spending social spending as a percentage of GDP, that's been increasing as well. So we spend more money on entitlements now than we ever have. And, this is the sort of thing, too, that's like easy enough to see when you just look at like federal spending every single year. It just goes up and up and up. Now, of course, not all of that is social spending. Some of it is defense spending and things like that. But the vast majority of it is entitlements. And this is actually another myth, as long as we're talking about myths. Social spending radically outpaces defense spending. So, we could argue about how much we should be spending on defense, but people will say things like, oh, if we didn't spend this much money on defense, we would have so much more money for Social Security or feeding the poor, SNAP benefits. Maybe we spend too much on defense, but we just spend far, far more on entitlement programs. Like that's a much bigger driver than the military.
We spend more money on interest payments than we do on our national defense in this country. And finally, okay, this is the golden calf, Chris, the fourth myth. Taxing billionaires will fix everything. If we just raise taxes on the guy who sends us our next day packages, our Amazon Prime, if we just raise taxes on the people who are allowing me to stream on this social network live to a dozen platforms, if we just raise taxes on all the people that are making it possible for you and I to have this conversation right now, then that will solve our economic problems. Chris, you say that's a myth.
Yeah, this is my favorite myth to debunk because I genuinely do enjoy defending billionaires because like you're saying, they may like I'm old enough to remember life before Amazon. Amazon is incredible. It has made my life like so much better. It's really amazing. And so sometimes people say, oh, we have to tax billionaires to increase revenue. But then there's almost this punitive dimension to some of the arguments where it's like we have to punish billionaires for becoming billionaires and providing us with all these goods and services that we like to buy. So it's simply not true that we could radically increase our tax revenues by dramatically increasing taxes on billionaires. So there's this kind of funny story where there was some op-ed where an economist said, look, if we confiscated every dollar from every American billionaire, that would not be enough to run the government for more than 8 months. It was every single penny. And then there was a fact check. And they said, well, no, actually, this is not true. We could, in fact, run the government for 10 months. It's like, oh, okay. But so the upshot is, even if, which is not true, even if the billionaires had all of their wealth in gold coins, like Scrooge McDuck, they're swimming around in the Scrooge McDuck pool. And then like, all right, then like the IRS comes in, takes all those gold coins. That is not enough to fund the government at its current levels of spending for an entire year. And now this actually understates the problem because, of course, they're not swimming around in gold coins like Scrooge McDuck. So if you confiscated all that wealth, you wouldn't actually get, however many billions or trillions you think you might. And that's not even to mention the fact that the long-term incentive effects would be completely disastrous. So why, if you have the idea for the next Amazon, would you try to actually implement that idea, take the risk, work the hours, if you knew that once you created the next Amazon, all of the wealth that you accrued from that would just be confiscated by the government? So, maybe we could increase taxes on billionaires a little bit and get a little bit more revenue. But this idea that we're going to fund the democratic socialist government of the United States in the future by taxing billionaires out of existence is simply not true.
Yes, and please, kids, do not dive head first into gold coins. That would kill you.
It always struck me as a weird pastime. Like, what isn't a pool with water better than, like, if I'm a billionaire, I'm swimming in water. I'm not swimming in gold.
Says no one shall besmirch the memory of Scrooge McDuck on my show. Chris Fryman, where can people follow you? Read your work, your writing. Do you have a Substack, an X page? Where should people go?
Yeah, so you could follow me on X at CA Fryman, so CA and my last name. I also do Substack occasionally at Fryman, FREI .substack.com. And actually, if I could, it's a little premature, but I got a book coming out with a friend of mine. She's a philosopher at the University of Richmond, Jess Flanagan, called Libertarianism, the Basics. Fingers crossed that's going to be out in October. You could have us on the show. I don't know.
Yeah, you better reach back out, Chris, if I forget, because we're going to have you back because you're literally talking to the audience for that kind of a promotion. So
I am happy to self-promote.
Yeah, when that happens, come back in October. We'll talk about your book. Chris, this was great. Debunking 4 major economic myths. We're going to cut this up, share it out there, and hopefully more people will learn and not follow people like Zora and Mamdani off a cliff. You have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you. You too.
There we go. Have a great day.
Heard them being called terrorists. We heard them being called drug dealers. We heard a lot of insults. We heard that they're a threat to our national security, and that's a flat-out lie. You want to know who the real threat is, Madam President? I'll give you a hint. They don't look like our chief author. They don't look like the folks up in the gallery. They don't look like the folks out in the rotunda. They look like many of the members that sit in the front. And you don't have to take my word for it. According to DHS, Madam President, the greatest domestic threat facing the United States comes from, quote, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocate for the superiority of the white race. Not our immigrants.
Upcoming mayor of Minnesota sounds just like the upcoming mayor of New York City. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Peterson. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's the final countdown, the last 10 minutes. I got one more topic I want to bring up to you. Let me paint a picture for you here. You know, we can't all be Mark Zuckerberg, right? But what if we don't all need to be? Imagine 100 million Mark Zuckerbergs waking up at once with laptops, smartphones, and 0 Ivy League credentials. No Harvard dropout story required. Just pure, unfiltered, high agency power. This is not a science fiction plot. That's right now. And this could be you. John Segato over at Replit, which is one of the fastest growing AI platforms in the world, calls these people high agency people. Could be you. What does this mean? These are folks who don't wait for permission. These are people who don't need a boss, that don't need a diploma, or a boardroom full of venture capitalists to say yes. They say yes to themselves. They see something broken and they go fix it fast. And artificial intelligence is their hammer. Replit's gone from 10 million to 100 million in annual revenue in just 6 months. Why? Because it lets normal people, barbershop owners, restaurant managers, even teenagers turn ideas into software without writing a single line in code. Segato describes it like this. Intelligence just went from, I need to pay an engineer a $200,000 job, and now I can do it for a simple price of $50 a month or whatever the fee is for this artificial intelligence tool. We're living in one of the most revolutionary moments in modern history, not because of politics, but Lord knows there's enough of that, but because of power. And I'm not talking about the kind of power that is wielded by bureaucrats or billionaires. I'm talking about the power that is in your hands for the low price of $20 a month. We have entered the age of the high agency individual, right? If you've never heard of that term before, buckle up. You're going to find out now why Ivy League degrees are becoming irrelevant and why you, yes, you can now compete with Silicon Valley from your basement. This is not a theory. This is reality. AI isn't democratizing information. That's what the internet did. AI is democratizing making things. Let that sink in. What used to cost you $200,000 for an engineer, what used to cost me a few $1,000s to design in a product, it's now replaced with an AI subscription that costs less than a month of Netflix. Credentialism is dying. Ingenuity is exploding. We've got high schoolers building apps that detect calories just by pointing a phone at their dinner. Have you seen this? This is an app with 6 million downloads. That kid was rejected by every Ivy League school. You've got restaurant owners building their own inventory systems. Barber shops are making their own booking platforms. 2 students created an AI-powered study app with 4 million users. No investors, no VCs, just their own vision. Meanwhile, AP, I am getting literal phone calls daily from friends, from fans, and even other broadcasters who are asking, Austin, how are you using AI to run your business, your media, and your life? And I always say the same thing. I don't have time to explain it all, but I'm about to, because I'm launching something called the AI Masterclass, okay? And I'm going to be teaching how I use ChatGPT to generate headlines, content, ad copy, video scripts, even merchandise ideas, and how I use other tools to create high-end videos and memes every single day. So many more. How I manage entire workflows, newsletters, podcast promos, and video production with AI assistance, and most importantly, how to think like a high agency person so you stop waiting on permission and start building. BB for Liberty is asking about app developers. You might want to ask the latest version of Grok, which just got a supercharged coding platform that I've seen people make some incredible video games with. So you won't need to write code. You won't need to hire anyone. You might need a Brad, though. You will need curiosity, a little rebellion, and the guts to start. It's no longer important to know how to do something. It's important to know that it needs to be done and then just do it. The cost of failure is lower. The cost of trying, even lower. The rewards are unlimited. This is a real gold rush that is happening right now. So this is, if you're listening to the Wake Up America show, you're the type of person who's ahead of the curve. I don't care if there's 90 people on Rumble or 9,000 people on Rumble. Better that it's smaller, because the secrets are going to be out very soon. So the signups for my AI Masterclass are going to open soon. You're going to learn everything I know, and you're going to start using it the very same day. And I want you to stick around on more of this, because there is a lot more exciting announcements about that to come. If you guys enjoyed the Wake Up America show today, do not forget to click the like button. And do not forget to collect your grift as you head through the grift shop. Thank you very much for all of you for joining the Wake Up America show this morning and being a part of something new, something special, and something that's going to go big time. Check out my AI Masterclass coming soon, and you all have a wonderful day. Tomorrow is going to be a great day. Of course, it's Freedom Family Friday. Stephanie and I will be live together tomorrow morning. Don't think Justin will be here, because I think he's traveling, but he will be in town tomorrow night, but he's going to the Crystal Gale concert, so we might not see him on the Freedom Arcade. But if we can, we will. Exit to the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com. We'll see you guys right back again here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
Remember the TSA shoe rule, right? That absurd ritual where millions of travelers every day have to take off their shoes, toss them in plastic bins, and shuffle barefoot through security lines like they're on some kind of barefoot prison detail. For nearly 2 decades, this humiliating, pointless hassle was standard procedure. And now, in July 2025, the TSA is finally admitting it was all a colossal waste of time. The shoe removal rule started after 9/11, when Richard Reed, the infamous shoe bomber, tried to blow up a plane by hiding explosives in his sneakers. Scary? Sure. Necessary to make everyone remove their shoes forever? Absolutely not. Here's the kicker. Since Reed's failed attempt in 2001, there hasn't been a single shoe bomb incident. Not one, nada, zero. That's nearly 20 years of millions of people taking off their shoes for no real security reason other than because TSA says so. Talk about overkill. Meanwhile, other countries with tough airport security don't have a shoe removal rule. Israel, one of the most security-conscious countries on the planet, relies on behavioral profiling and intelligence gathering. They watch your behavior and interview you, not force you to go barefoot. The US? We took the theatrical route because nothing says we're protecting you like forcing millions to slip off their socks in public. Fast forward to July 2025. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announces that passengers can now keep their shoes on while going through TSA checkpoints. The official story? Cutting-edge technology and a multi-layered security approach mean shoe removal is no longer necessary. But let's be honest, this change isn't about some new scanner magic. It's about political pressure and public outrage after nearly 20 years of humiliating, inconvenient nonsense. Airlines and airports complained that TSA procedures created bottlenecks and pissed off customers, so the TSA finally blinked. This is a welcome change. Shorter lines, less hassle, and a small win for travelers. But don't get carried away. It doesn't mean the TSA suddenly became competent. They still miss fake bombs in undercover tests. They still confiscate water bottles and pat down grandmas. They still mess up plenty of other things. The shoe removal rule is the perfect example of government overreach and wasted resources. It wasn't designed to catch terrorists, but to put on a show, to make the public feel safer. Economists estimate Americans wasted a collective 30,000 years of life just taking shoes off and on at TSA lines over the past 2 decades. That's a hell of a lot of lost time for zero demonstrable security benefit. The shoe rule is security theater, a policy designed to make travelers feel protected without actually increasing safety. Bruce Schneier, who coined the term, has called the shoe rule a classic example of this. All appearance, no substance. The TSA clung to the shoe rule like a security blanket for years, afraid to change because what if something happened? But the fact is, it never needed to exist in the first place. Now that it's finally gone, we should ask, what other TSA rituals are just theater? The 311 liquid limits, laptop removals, the invasive pat-downs, the endless bins? The TSA needs to stop fighting the last war, reacting to old threats with blunt, pointless rules that waste everyone's time. The real security wins come from intelligence, good police work, and real investigations, not shoe removal or confiscating your tiny shampoo bottles. So enjoy this rare TSA concession. Next time you breeze through security with your shoes on, remember, the TSA might still be watching, but they're finally learning the difference between real security and security theater.